Collectibles friends, Alf, how are you? It's another day, another Collectibles video. We're here to talk about Pokemon cards and why I think that vintage is being completely overlooked. When I look at the Pokemon YouTube space, when I listen to a lot of the talking heads, I'm not hearing a whole lot about vintage, but I hear a ton about all the new releases and everything that was released over the last few years. Let's dive into it. Welcome back, friends, for another Collectibles Dad episode. I have been into Pokemon cards. Now, granted, I collect a huge variety of different things. Sports cards, non-sports cards, entertainment cards, action figures, comic books, all the goodness. But over the last month, I have gotten into the sealed game for Pokemon. But another thing that I've been taking a look at is, okay, I'm into the sealed stuff. I hear there's a lot of talk about that. I've also heard talk about modern, ultra modern, kind of the new release Pokemon singles. You know, the stuff that people are chasing, Umbreons and different things like that. Fantastic.
You take the card and put it in the sleeve.
But what about the OG stuff? Now, again, as a lot of sealed holders would say, they're long-term holders. They're long-term collectors/investors of the stuff. So if you're looking to hold whatever it is at 10, 15, 20 years, I was thinking like, man, I know this stuff came out in 1999. It's not necessarily mega rare, a lot of it, but let's look at some high grade. And what I've been looking at specifically are base set, fossil, and jungle, going back to 1999, the hollows, but in higher grades. So maybe that's an 8 or a 9. The 10's a little bit outside of my price range, and that's not really my focus. I'm not trying to spend all my money on a 10. I'm thinking like, hey, I can get kind of some volume if I'm in the 8s and the 9s. And I was looking at PSA population reports, and really for the 8s, the 9s, some of them are a little high. What was one that was a little on the high side? Matchamp? Sorry, guys, I'm new to the game. I'm new to the Pokemon game. I think he's got like 4,000 PSA 9s or something like that. So some of them not necessarily low population, but it's all relative. You know, is the new product that's being released, is that low print? No, it's not at all. So everyone keeps telling me that demand for Pokemon is just that much higher than everything else in trading cards. And I do agree with them. And so when I'm looking at PSA populations for these cards, going back to 1999 and maybe even kind of like early 2000s era Pokemon stuff, when I'm thinking 10, 15, 20 years down the road, if and when I'm going to sell some of this stuff or all of it, let's say, what are people going to look back on and appreciate? And I kind of strike a comparison to sports cards here. I know a lot of people say, oh man, this is not the same market. It's not the same as sports cards. But if I draw a comparison, bear with me here, bear with me. In 1990 was kind of the big boom for sports cards, the last one. 87 to 94, kind of that big boom last time for sports cards. A lot of people were focused on the new sets, the new releases, the new players. And there's a great documentary on YouTube called Cardboard Dreams that's literally like a guy with a video camera in 1990 interviewing people. And the old guys back then are saying, man, I don't understand why these young people, they want Don Mattingly, but they're not going to pay a little bit more and get Willie Mays, or pay extra and get Mickey Mantle. Well, now hindsight's 2020. Looking back, I'm sure a lot of those young people would probably wish that they had put some more money into Mickey Mantle as opposed to just maybe, I don't know, Don Mattingly or Bo Jackson. So if we're drawing a little bit of a similar comparison here, they're going to continue to release new products that are going to have chase cards, are going to have new hits. And I'm not saying that, you know, those cards are just eventually going to go down in value over time. Maybe they also do really well over time. But it just feels like a lot of people are sleeping on the vintage, the early stuff. I'm really talking specifically about singles prices. There's a little bit too much weirdness, scammy type stuff, frankly, with vintage boxes and packs. Now, of course, we've got the guy that came out with like the little tool where he can read what's inside of a pack. Loose packs is not a thing for me. I'm not interested in modern loose packs, and I'm definitely not interested in buying a $200 fossil pack, you know, on eBay that's a loose pack. I did buy, just because I thought that it was cool, a PSA 9 graded first edition fossil pack. I recently got this off of eBay, and I just thought it was cool. And again, though, I was thinking, you know, first edition, I think first edition is going to matter in 10, 15, 20 years. And I understand fossil and Jungle are nowhere near as scarce as like base set. But I just thought, you know what, that's a cool item to have. So I wanted to add that into the collection, add that into the portfolio, if you will, in quotation marks. Yeah, I think we all learned our lesson when you're looking at, Logan Paul that's opening up huge money boxes, and what he's got, G.I. Joe cards are flopping out of it.
In this piece of seal that was put on there by Wizards of the Coast, that this tape is aged onto this case. This label too, the same embedded lines of the cardboard from age are in that label.
There's no evidence of tampering.
One edge would look different.
In any way, shape, or form.
I did my diligence just like I do for a sports case.
I'm not spending huge money unless, ironically, we've talked about this in a recent video, CT scanning is getting a lot of hell right now for using a CT scan to see where the hits are and what the hits are in sports cards. If you had a CT scan of a $10,000 Pokemon box and I could actually see that that's the real stuff in there, then that would be a value add for me. So that's actually where CT scanning can lend the hobby, can actually add to the hobby that we're in. But for me, I can't risk like some sort of reseal, repackage, some sort of a weirdness with a vintage box. Too many scammy type things out there. I just don't trust it. I would much rather put that money into sealed, newer stuff, hold it, kind of like what a lot of people are doing now with all the new releases, the Sword and Shield, the Scarlet Violet. We've got the Prismatic Evolutions is coming out, and there's all sorts of stories around pre-sales going sideways. I'll probably make a separate video on that coming up. But what do you all think? I want to get, again, this is viewer feedback time because I'm new to the space. I'm new to the Pokemon cards in general. So am I crazy to think that maybe some of the vintage singles could be underpriced or maybe just underappreciated? Anytime I see where there's a huge, heavy focus on one area of a collectible, I'm always looking at like, okay, well, where could there be value? And that's where we've just been kind of picking our spots. I've been buying Vivid Voltage boxes and just kind of buying the last of the affordable Sword and Shield stuff, as it's popped up. I watched a video, I think it was Rudy Alpha Investments' latest video, and basically he's been saying like, hey, I'm a believer that Sword and Shield and a lot of the Scarlet Violet eventually stuff is going to move up in price. And so really when you're picking what to buy, are you chasing the booster box that's going up or that's gone way up? Or are there other boxes that maybe haven't gotten the love yet? And I say yet because it just seems inevitably they probably do get some sort of a bump over time. Obviously can't see the future, not investment advice and all that sort of a thing, but that's really been my focus here over the last month. I did, when I first started, I'm happy that I did do this, but I bought 3-pack blisters for Evolving Skies. I bought a bunch of those going back about a month ago, and those have already gone up quite a bit, of course, because when I again, just going back a month, it was $1,000, roughly $950, $1,000 for an Evolving Skies booster box. And now they're pushing what, 12, 13, 14, maybe even $1,500. So those 3-pack blisters have kind of gone up in sync with those booster box prices. So I'm glad I did get some Evolving Skies stuff. Let me know though, vintage singles. Am I crazy here? Especially when I'm looking at kind of boom time 2020, 2021, where a lot of these singles went absolutely bananas. And they've corrected back, and a lot of them have corrected way back to like 2019 prices, early 2020 prices. Would love to hear your thoughts. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I'll talk to you again later.